Fancy title, Cosmic Explorer, Zen and the Art of Astronomical Pursuit. People who know me know I hold in high esteem the people in this hobby as well as the hobby itself. And it's kind of a follow-up to a talk I gave a couple of years ago. Actually, I gave it for several years. It was designed for some astronomy clubs. A little bit preaching to the choir with you all because you're a little bit more involved in the hobby. But it was based on this. It was called Beautiful Questions. And I think our hobby is a great remedy for our current culture of what I call amusement. And amusement from the Latin, without thought. Our hobby is just the opposite. It is total engagement of everything, expanding your knowledge. And it was based on a book that I read, More Beautiful Question, and it's based on E. Cummings' quote, very last verse in his publication, Poems. Always the beautiful answer who asks a more beautiful question. And E. Cummings likes to mix up the pronouns and make you you think deeply about what he's saying. But what he's saying at the end of the day is that the person who asks the questions, the answers, are all kind of interconnected. And the questions we ask will determine kind of our trajectory and our increased or decreased understanding of things. So beautiful question isn't, what color shirt are you wearing? It's an ambitious yet actionable question, can begin to shift the way we think or perceive about things. So that going on, this is kind of a follow-up, and I consider us cosmic explorers. And what we do truly is art. It's a mix of art and science. So Merriam-Webster says a person who searches geographic or scientific information. That's what we do. Our geography is usually the sky, although go to star parties, we do some other geography in local areas. As astronomers, we're explorers. We're mapping this seemingly infinite, that's unknown, which is chaos or disarray, and we make it into cosmos or order. Is anybody, any gamers here? There's somebody that's okay, there's some adult gamers, or if you have kids and you've seen the games, and as they explore these maps, they kind of open up and you go from black, unknown to, this opened up and now I have a map and I have understanding, I have some order to it. As long as I've been doing this for 30 years and there's still parts of the sky completely undiscovered to me. As a matter of fact, we were out late at night and there were some kids from Georgia Tech University, and they were out there really smart, asking good questions and stuff. And it was late at night, and they pointed some part of the sky where no bright stars, and asked, what constellation is that? And I'm like, I think it's the elephant and the rhino. And they were like, what? And I said, hell if I know what it is. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's parts of the sky I'm very familiar with. There are parts of the sky I really don't know. So as long as I've been in here doing this again for 30 years, there's tons of stuff for me to explore. As editor of the magazine, I am really privileged to interact with folks that are doing this really, really well. And that's part of what I'm going to share with you, some of the stuff that I am fortunate to interact with, the amazing things that some of the people who send us content. So, further explorers are those who venture into the realm of the unknown, unmapped territory, create or expand their realm of personal cosmos or knowledge and order. And the process is always intricately linked with our growth in ability or understanding and knowledge. So as we do these things, we become a little more, we expand our abilities as human beings. So the concept is well represented in fiction. Pinocchio, he had to go through all these different trials and tribulations to become human. Bilbo Baggins, as he left the Shire, the comfort of the Shire and his home zone, into the realm of chaos and disorder, and went through all these things and increased his ability to deal with those things. So Zen, I'm not practicing Zen Buddhist, but interesting concept, and they have a much cooler symbol for duality, which is what I will talk about a little bit. But it utilizes discipline, self-restraint, to look into the nature of things around you, but also your mind, which gets back to that beautiful question that I talked about earlier. And I did steal the title list from a book. Anybody read? I grew up in Miami back in the came of age late 60s, early 70s. So anybody who was in Miami at that time has some understanding. Anybody read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance? Yeah, cool. If you rode motorcycles back in that time, it was almost necessary. So it was kind of a cool thing. So it was about these two fictionalized characters, and the author was presenting them. One was represented the Dionysian, the romantic, the one who was all about emotions and being in the moment and irrationality. And the other one was Apollonian. He was this totally, the opposite end. He was the engineer, the mechanic. And he rode a Triumph, so he had to be a mechanic. So I had to repair it. The Dionysian, he rode a BMW, and he just was into the wind in the face and all that stuff. And it was really a cool thing. But at the end of the day, the author comes and brings you to the realization that for good balance, you really need a little bit of both of those things. So, and as we go forward in our hobby, I think I'll introduce, hopefully, that for you to enjoy the hobby to its fullest, you need to present some kind of a balance. So you need to, well, I want to talk about art too. I have people and they ask, I'd like to contribute something. And I said, yeah, send me something about your art. And they'll go, well, I'm not I don't do astrophotography and I don't sketch. And I'm like, what do you do? Again, some people confuse an artwork with art. Art is a process. And if you view what you do as art, you will begin to move forward with a more creative outlook to it. So by creative process by which we define or redefine nature of things, process of bringing chaos into cosmos, and the unknown or undefined into a reimagined role or order of things. And talking about the link between science and art, the Impressionists, they gave voice, or very, in a manifest way, what we were understanding about refraction and light. And so they were representing how light changes over time or different angles. And how many of you actually seen Monet's, the most famous one, probably water lilies, and seen them in person? Yeah. And there is something to seeing artwork in person versus a picture or something. And again, get involved in this hobby. There's something different from looking at a Hubble Space Telescope picture and going out there and engaging in the hobby and doing something. But yeah, they were intimately affected by the science that was going on at the time. The cubists, the same thing. As you began to get this introduction of quantum mechanics, they began to look at the world and how do we represent this new knowledge. And so you find a marriage of science and art as well. So over the years, again, this is generally a more enthusiastic crew, but at a lot of clubs, they see people come and go. I do see some at the magazine, it's interesting, I get these people call up and say, just want to let you know I'm not resubscribing. Well, either they're PO'd at me for some reason, or they give an excuse, yeah, I've seen everything there is to see, or imaged everything there is to image, and then, yeah, it's interesting. And then other times they say, thank you for sharing, just hang up. Depends what kind of mood I'm in. But when you get that feedback, you realize there's a couple things. There are people who get started and can never get past that initial chaos. I mean, figuring it out, it's tough. Other people get to the other side of the spectrum and they're just become bored with it because they've stopped looking at it as an artistic pursuit and stopped expanding themselves, their own knowledge and abilities. So yeah, you can go either way, and our personalities are definitely distinct and different. So people can tolerate more, some people tolerate more chaos, and other people need much more order to continue and to be excited about it. And there's a third enthusiasm killer I've discovered, which is lack of direction or focus. I'm going to address each one of these. Lack of focus. Yeah, direction or focus. So.
Focus on the telescope?
That too, yes. If you can't focus your telescope, you will lose enthusiasm pretty quickly. Collimation is the very next part of that. So another book, I refer to a lot, I read a lot of books. I set about 25 years ago, set out a goal to read at least 50 books a year. I've just done that, it's become part of my life. So I refer to a lot of books. I find things that are just interesting because they stimulate my thinking and help expand my paradigm, how I view the world. One of these, as this is another one, anybody read Accidental Tourist? It got pretty good, moved around a bit, yeah. So this was a writer who wrote for people who had to travel in business but he hated the unexpected. He hated the cosmos. He hated stuff that could happen. And he was like my wife. She doesn't like travel because things happen that are unexpected. And then she married someone like me who is the demon of chaos. So, and to give you a little bit, I tell people, give you a little reference. So, we've been married now. This year will be 47 years. So I got all credit to her. Yeah. So, yes, absolutely. So we had a first date on January 1st, then we got married in August. So this wasn't a long period of time for two. I was 23, she was 21. Needless to say my mind was only half cooked would be generous. So, but I grew up with a very different background. My father was a traveler and I would say an explorer. So if you imagine this, just an example, he took a sabbatical. He was a teacher, took a sabbatical, took us over to, we went to Luxembourg, bought a pop-top camper. Now this is before GPS, this is before internet. So we just went over there. The grand plan was head north until it gets too cold. Literally, that was it, head north. Where are we going to camp? We'll look for the little signs with the tent on it. That was kind of if not, we pull over the side of the road and we tent camp. Then coming back, it was warm, so we went back through, Germany and Switzerland and Austria and into Italy. And we get in Italy and he goes, hey, we can put this thing on a boat. We're going to Greece. So that was kind of how I viewed, that was my paradigm for travel. You kind of wing it. Yeah.
When was that? What year?
That was, let's see, I was 15, so 1970. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a different world, but there were no resources. You literally hunted down somebody to ask information. Yeah, hey, what do you know? And a lot of times it started with, who do you know that speaks English? So, and we would go, and my dad would buy him a beer or something like that, and that's it. So my view of travel was very different. Well, so fast forward, we get married. My wife loves everything British, from BBC to the monarchy and all that to high tea. She loves it. And so I said, well, we're going to go to England and Scotland. And we're going to go for 3 weeks. I got it all taken care of, which in my mind was true. So she's trusting me implicitly. This man she had hitched her wagon to, known for 8 months. So we go over there and we're in London for 4 nights and in a nice hotel, and everything is peachy other than my navigating the wrong side of the road, occasionally coming off one of the circles. They drive on the wrong side of the road. But other than that, it was great. She loved it. We had a great time seeing the sights in London. And the first big one came when we sat down and we were at dinner on that last night in London. She goes, well, where are we going now? And I said, I thought we'd go up to the Lake District. And she looked at me and she goes, what do you mean you thought? And I said, we got a car, we got a money full of pocket, or traveler's checks at that point. We can go anywhere that we want. And she was, you brought me to a foreign country without reservations? And I was like, is that such a thing? And I was trying to justify, so I was like, hey, if we find a place we don't like, we can move on, we can do anything we want. And I thought that was a good thing. That wasn't. Well, it took me probably another decade to realize it wasn't just that. She was like, I hitched my wagon to a man who put about 10 minutes of thought into the honeymoon, so what's my life going to be like? And I didn't make any promises other than it would be exciting. And she would tell you, through whatever 17 different careers and moves, and it's been exciting. So, but we've had a good time and we lasted through it. All that's to say is, one more in my defense. We got lost in Grisdale Forest. We found this really neat honey lodge, had a French chef and the guy with the English mustache, handlebar mustache behind the bar. It was phenomenal until we were thrown out on the weekend because we didn't have reservations. But my point is we never found that place. So anyway, there's a little bit of serendipity, but truthfully that balance works. And over the years, I've learned the errors of my way. And like all good marriages, the husband realizes he's totally wrong and he amends his ways. But 2 different ways. Margie approaches astronomy in a similar way. She likes a plan, and likes it, all worked out. I like to keep it open for a little serendipity. And to be fulfilled, you will probably have to find your own work. So balance the risk and reward. In the chaos, the unfamiliar, what do you present? There was a guy I knew, and he was a phenomenal astronomer, and he shared with me that he's scared of the dark. I mean, truly, that was like some chaos. And I think we've been there. If you've gone out on your own, I was in Copper Breaks, and I moved away from everybody else, so I'm observing on my own. And you get wildlife encounters. In this case, we had footprints of a mountain lion. Even if you're comfortable in the dark, there's some things that introduce a little bit of discomfort. Frustration with equipment or new equipment. And I don't know if Randy's here, but he was helping me the other night with a little problem. It was like, Randy, pull the plug now, stop it. But that can cause frustration, unknown, and it causes some people to not continue in the hobby. Unknown skies. Everybody been down to the southern hemisphere? It's like seeing it all together. I learned the skies in fairly urban neighborhoods, and then when I went out to the Texas Star Party in 2000, my first dark sky experience as a kid, and when I did, I'd squint, so I'd eliminate all those stars that I couldn't recognize, and oh yeah, I see the ones that I do. So it's frustrating if you don't have a means of a plan going forward. Technical problems beyond your grasp, lack of knowledge in any area, and by the same token, those same things provide the stimulus that keep us going. So again, if we find a balance with what we do and what we like, we can do it. So you need a path forward. And I saw this toilet paper, the Astronomy Enclave, thought it was very clever. So I helped the astronaut find our seventh planet. So, yeah, very good. So you need a path forward. What's it? Help the astronaut find Uranus, or as the interpret. I don't know, but I will. I'll have to get that. That is just too good. Well, and where would we be without our seventh planet? If you do, how many of you have done outreach to like high school or junior high kids? Yeah. So that's yeah. Well, that's always a bit of a challenge when you go through that. And it goes back to when you get into this was a sixth grade class, and usually I can avoid the pitfalls. In this case, very clever kid, and obviously knew more than the average, because he asked me, and he was trying to bait me into these things, and usually with the correct pronunciation, I can sidestep it. But he asked me, he goes, do any other planets have rings? Well, that's more knowledge than most, because most people assume that Saturn's it. And so I said, yes, there's other planets. They're very faint. And so so I kind of stepped there because I thought, he knows more than the average. And he says, so can you see the rings around Uranus? And I responded at this point unsuspecting and said, with a big enough mirror, I imagine. And which started the laughter. And at this point, I realized it'd been had. So I said, but as I get older, flexibility is an issue as well, which of course, and at that point, the teacher was regretting having invited me to speak to her class. But I will say, that kind of loosened things up, and really we had some of the best discussions about the potential of life, what's required for the intricacies of carbon-based life on Earth here, and the position where it needs to be in our Milky Way, and what's the potential of other places, and you get into the specifics of the type of star that we revolve around, and all those different things and intricacies, and then the difficulty just of the physics of it, of traveling these vast distances. So it served its purpose. I told the teacher afterwards, she was like, I thought you'd really lost it there. And I was like, well, yeah, we had, but we recovered. But it led to a great discussion. So anyway, the unknown. Anything could be a UFO if you're bad enough at identifying stuff. So yeah. So I've developed a pretty nice library, although there's some people who have put this to shame, of different, and I'll go over a couple of resources I find to be very useful. But like I say, they're terrific books, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Luna Cognita, which is amazing. I love atlases. I grew up, it's interesting, I grew up before GPS and all that, so the sextant, I was taught how to do that. We navigated going through the Bahamas and Virgin Islands at 12 years old. I was taught how to use a compass, a ship's chronometer, and a sextant. Mostly we find our bearing on stars at night, but if you're going for a couple of days out of sight of land and you're half degree off, you're missing that island. So very important stuff. But anyway, resources help us find our way, help us find our way to increase our skill set. And of course, there's a magazine down there, which I highly recommend. So these are ones, I mean, and these are just samples, the ones that I use and use frequently. Night Sky Observer's Guide, how many of you have or use that one? Yeah, it's a great resource, and one of the nice things, especially for people getting started, it gives you an idea, and so does, by the way, Deep Sky Guide. If you're using a small telescope, there's some stuff you're just probably wasting your time with, unless you're Stephen O'Meara or something like that. You know, walk around with eye patches on your eyes. But they give you an idea of what you could see, and really is a nice way forward to enjoy the hobby and increase your skill set as well. This is just an example of one from the Deep Sky Atlas and what they do and what they see. But you know, I go back to these resources as well when I'm imaging, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. So some digital research, I could fill this page just with lists of stuff that's available for digital. I like Sky Safari 5 Pro 4 on my tablet. Of course, the Sky Pro is one of the, you know, the ones used by almost everybody I know. And the photographer's ephemeris, if you are planning some kind of an event, has anybody used that TPE, photographer's ephemeris? If you want to see when the moon's going to be behind this mountain or this building or whatever, it's a great resource for doing that.
Telescopius?
What's that?
Which one did you say?
The photographer's ephemeris, TPE. So if you haven't, I mean, it's like, I think a $5, $8 app or something like that, but it really does help you plan. You want to image or see things, or where's the moon rising in reference to this land point. You put in your GPS coordinates, and it's a really neat resource. There's a lot of stuff out there. That was one that I found if you're doing stuff. So if you're going to dig a little deeper, you know, everybody asks, you know, what is dark matter and where is dark matter? But nobody asks, how is dark matter? So if you want to go that next level deeper, you got to ask a few more beautiful questions. And, you know, this was interesting. As I talk about perspective, this could be Calvin and Hobbes, it seems to me, but I saw this, and, you know, there's a lot of truth to it. And this is stuff that all of us know or probably hear, but we forget. And it says, I love sitting out under the stars. And the other guy says, it's daytime. Yeah, but the stars are all still up there. Constellations wheel overhead. They're just painted with blue. Every sky is full of stars. That's somehow terrifying. And for some people it would be. That's okay. Just look at the sunny sky and tell yourself space isn't real. Daytime is us closing to our eyes and pretending it makes infinity go away. There's a certain amount, and there was a power outage in Los Angeles, and they had untold numbers of people that called in all freaked out because they were seeing the Milky Way. They thought it was some kind of invasion from UFOs. So what we don't know, you know, what we know is again, this is ground that we've covered before. For a lot of people, the most basic things are misunderstood, including, I mean, you hear talk show hosts, and these are people that are supposedly educated, you know, they were discussing whether the moon was a planet or a star. And it was like, really? Yeah, so the most basic and fundamental things that we take for granted, some people don't. And the other part of this, you know, I ask a lot of people, yeah, this is a Venn diagram of my life at certain times. There's that nice intersection of things I'm good at and things I like to do, and that's a sweet spot. Things that make money in my life seem to be totally outside of that realm. And then there's the honeydew, the things I do a lot of times, and it's no intersection at all. But finding a balance there, some people get a nice intersection of both. But finding a balance in life, a lot of people say, I hear them, they're fascinated with astronomy. When they get started, when they subscribe, I usually ask them, hey, how'd you get going? And they started as a kid, and somebody showed them Saturn. Yeah, Saturn and the moon. I mean, so when you do outreach, you really don't have to go too much beyond that. You show them Jupiter and the moon, some good images of something like that in an eyepiece, and it sticks. But then they get caught up in life, go figure, they have kids and there's no disposable income. You know, the old saying, yeah, how do you keep your kids off drugs? You get them involved in this hobby. They don't have any money for drugs. So it's usually later when they have a little bit extra time and disposable income that they come back to it. Or the other thing is they have kids themselves and they want to share the things that they were shared with them as kids. And there's a lot of benefit and value in that. And so, then you get to the other side of it, the overly familiar, and there's boredom or indifference. Along with antimatter and dark matter, we've recently discovered the existence of doesn't matter, which appears to have no effect on the universe whatsoever. So there's something to that. When you get bored, as my grandmother used to say, only boring people are bored. So if you're bored, it's because you're lacking the imagination to stimulate yourself. You need to bring in some new material, some new people in your life or something, because only boring people get bored. But the remedy is usually the same as the other one. Learn, read, hang out with other people who have this art. What I do is art, explore, expand our knowledge and ability. Hang out with the young child. It's interesting. I know most of you are probably like me in the age where you're in the grandkid age. Well, I had a grandniece over, a 5-year-old. And they will help you look at the world in a whole new way. Took them with a little walk through our neighborhood, which I've done literally hundreds of times. And so this little 5-year-old is like, I just kept making these comments. I'm like, if I ever walk through this neighborhood, they're like, oh, they have a really big pool. And I'm like, I didn't know they had a pool. She's looking in between the houses and stuff. I'm like, oh, they must have a really big dog. And I'm like, look at the size of that doghouse. I'm like, I never noticed that. By the time we got done, I'm like, I've never even walked this way, They will see things, and the key is to keep ourselves in that mode. Are we always aware of all the things around us? When we're engaged in our hobby, are we digging a little bit deeper? Are we looking at the stuff? Are we just seeing a pattern we've seen so many times we no longer see it? E. E. Cummings, another one of his poems was, a line from it was, down we imagine as up we grow. Really, that's a pretty cool thing. As we get older, our imaginations tend to atrophy if we're not careful. And boredom can do interesting things. This is Gladys Underwood. She became so bored that against the advice of her friend, she knit herself a gateway to another dimension. She later swallowed up. We never found her again, but no, I'm just kidding, but yeah, apparently this woman did. So COVID had an interesting impact. We can no longer gather like this for a while. That was a bummer, because to me, that is a huge benefit. Getting together like this, people you learn things, you interact, they keep your excitement up. It did have another interesting effect, though. It pushed people through sheer boredom into this hobby. It's like, I got to find something, I'm going out of my mind. So our hobby survived, which was a nice thing. But I did miss the personal interaction. There was also a shortage of supply and everything else, but interestingly, our hobby seems to have done pretty well. So addressing the overly familiar and boredom, sometimes you just need to get a different perspective. And a lot of times that's just looking at it and putting it in a frame of reference. When you're looking at something, how far is it away? How large is it? Have you noticed, those of you who do deep sky photography and also do like nightscapes, people who don't know anything about astronomy, which one do they usually gravitate to? The nightscapes. They're like much easier to do, but it gives a frame of reference. Well, we can get to the same point. We need to, how big is the Great Red Spot? I know you've looked at it, 20, 30, 40 times in the last couple of months, but how big is it? How fast are those winds going? Remind yourself of all those things that gave you intrigue to begin with. Go to star parties. Again, preaching to the choir here. This is one of the greatest ways, I believe, to expand your understanding and your enthusiasm. Do some outreach. Why do I say do outreach? You will have to do your research to do outreach. You will have the kid asking you if you can see the faint. No, you really do. I mean, even the basic stuff. How far is the moon away? Well, you got to kind of refresh your thoughts on that. Anytime you show them even the basic things, they will ask you stuff. And to be ready for it, you're going to find your depth. You're going to push your depth of knowledge a little bit more. Write an article. And again, obviously, that's the interested party here, but share what you're doing. To do that, you will have to go one step deeper into understanding what you're doing. I mean, you're going to have to really think about it to communicate it to another human being. Engage in a different aspect of the hobby, and I'm going to talk about a number of those in a minute. Expand your interest wide or deep. Get some new equipment. So I recently did that. And I had a lot of, over the years, you develop a lot of equipment. So I actually sold equipment to fund this equipment, or that's what I told Margie. So I got these two new, they're small. So they're just two small setups. They're lightweight. So as I get older, I mean, I can still lift stuff. I just seem to have less desire to lift really heavy stuff. So I wanted two light setups, but I also wanted something, hey, that just works. I also wanted to be able to get out of the cold. Sometimes when I'm imaging, it's cold where I am. Sometimes the clearest night. So I said, I'll get a couple of these, see how they work together. And the little meme up there, you can see the teacher, lawyer, engineer, and astrophotographer. Yeah, we're up. I mean, and I used to be the one who always said, yeah, sleep is for wimps, and if you're not shivering and falling asleep, you're not doing it right, you know. Yeah, I've changed my way. So, you know, those are my two iPads inside the bus in the heat as these two mounts are doing their thing. And it has gotten to a point, when I got started, you were hand guiding with the reticle IP. Anybody do that with film? I never did it successfully, but I did it enough to know I'm not going to do that. You know, I was one of those people early on. If something else hadn't come along, I wouldn't have been in this hobby. That was unbelievably difficult. I know some people that did it well. But yeah, it wasn't me. So first time out, this is the first time. And when I got started with other stuff, you had to get new drivers that would work. You needed a friend, Richard Wright. If he didn't do that stuff, you were screwed. I mean, stuff wasn't going together. You get out in the field, and I need 3 more talk, you know, reducers and adapters and crap. Well, this is the first time I used this equipment at all. I hooked it up one time in my office, took these two mounts out there, and here's some stuff that I got the first time out with it. That our equipment has come a long ways from when I got started in it. So it isn't the big barrier that it used to be in the past, but the autofocuser actually worked, the camera's integrated, everything worked like it should do. So these are just, again, this is one star party with 3 long days of rain that I accumulated some of this stuff. I was dawn to dusk, and guess what? I got to go to sleep. It shuts itself down, it parks the mount, does all that good stuff, which you've been able to do for a while, but took a bit more sophistication or investment in the hobby. So, and yeah, some more. Like I say, wasn't bad for a first time out. In the past, what I had to show for my first week out with new equipment was usually flats and darks. Yeah, I got my flats and darks. We're good. Yeah, nothing else, but we got flats and darks. So anyway, yeah, in case you don't have equipment to sell, yeah, this is, yeah, it clearly came from Santa. So just a suggestion. And yeah, I like this one. Look, a shooting star, make a wish. I wish you'd stop buying telescopes. Oh, sorry, that's a plane. Yeah. And then when you get your equipment, I mean, it is. The first, like everybody here, there must have been a lot of new equipment. When you get hail in the lower keys, people are buying equipment. So, yeah, it's like, and yeah, you get excited and yeah, oh, I'm going to go watch this. We got a total eclipse of the sun coming up. And it's a hit or miss thing. The last one, we were total eclipse in Nashville, where I live. And at our home, my wife went out there. I got together with some friends, went up Kentucky Lake, and it was beautiful. I mean, we were good. But 20 miles away, yeah, the weather did its thing. Nashville, where they had this big get together at the planetarium, clouded out in totality. And at home, just beautiful. The weather does its thing. It is just part of the hobby. You got to take the hail with the 45-mile-an-hour winds with the beautiful sunshine. So part of it, but it can be a source of frustration if you don't look at it. So, and then the astronomer's dreaded buzzkill. Yeah, like there's a stock, yeah, somebody said that. Yeah, there's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem. Your computer's literally made out of wood and string. The early Star Treks are pretty funny if you go back and look at those. But so you can overcome it or avoid some of that stuff by making some less. And this is where I tend to be big on the serendipity. I need to balance out with a little bit of the other side and make more plans. And it's made me, as a result, I enjoy the hobby more than I did before. I have a new practice. I set everything up literally in my office because it was like 10 days ago, minus 9 degrees in Nashville. I got to tell you, there's nothing getting me out in minus 9 degrees other than having to get something to eat. So I set it up in the office, I had it over there, and then from there, all set up, just connected it, put everything in a box, and guess what? It all arrived. I was not missing any cables or anything else. So there's an idea. If you tend to be more of the serendipity or you show up and I'm missing this cable, I'm missing that, it's a nice practice and it's actually kind of fun when it's minus 90 degrees. There's not much else to do. Set up your stuff. Contingency plans. Yeah, and when I got going early, I remember, yeah, Tell Margie, oh, it's a beautiful night, come out. And she goes, I'll come out when the yelling and cursing stops. And I was like, fair enough. I would let some equipment failures ruin a gorgeous night under the stars. And that's truly a crime. Do something else. I mean, you can sometimes solve those problems easily in the morning with some light. Set up a DSLR, do some easy imaging, do some observing with people around you. Don't let equipment failures ruin a gorgeous night under the stars. They're too rare. Yeah, do some naked eye viewing. When I went down to Australia, I just sat there sometimes for an hour and a half. I mean, you look up the large Magellanic Cloud and the southern Milky Way. And I met somebody from down under here for the first time, an astronomer, at the Winter Star Party. And I said, hey, how do you like our skies, the Milky Way there? And they goes, I just got to tell you, brother, you all got screwed up here. So, southern Milky Way is freaking spectacular. So, but yeah, I'd just sit there a naked eye. I didn't need any equipment to really enjoy it. And then when all else happens, I've been to star parties where literally we had the Chiefland Star Party, and the guy who won the imaging contest was like focusing on a star or something like that. And he submitted it. It's like, well, that's the only one we got. It literally was from one side to the other. But you know, we had a great time getting together with other people. We shared what we were doing. Again, maximize your time. Don't let unseen for events kill your enthusiasm. So, and the other thing is, just a lack of direction. If you find yourself less enthused than you were previously, spend a little time, create a plan for yourself. So define an observing or an imaging list, develop a goal, set a new skill. There's so many different aspects to this hobby at this point. It's phenomenal. Set up astronomy related calendar, and you know, the obvious are like the eclipse, but I know some people they're setting up to go and observe different conjunctions, different moon phases, meteor showers, eclipses. And these are just some examples. If you haven't, again, if you kind of off the cuff, maybe take the time and start to make some observing notes. And again, when I talk about art and a work of art, this becomes your work of art. It represents what you do. But I am certainly not an artist when it comes to sketching, or my abilities fall a bit short. But whenever I sketch an object, I will always see far more than I did when I didn't sketch the object. So it can be a good thing, whether you're going to show anybody the end result or not, you will see far more than you ever saw before. So a number of different observing. I think I've got some of those forms, and I'll give them if somebody wants one just as a template, nothing fancy. And then look at different parts of the hobby. I mean, most of us that are imagers, we consider the moon the great light polluter. You know, it really, we lose our enthusiasm. It's like, oh, it's clear night, it's full moon, of course. Well, first, narrowband filters are taking care of a lot of that. You can actually do it. But if you want to observe the moon and do it in a way that's deeper than just looking at it, go, oh yeah, that's pretty, for about 10 minutes at last. If you don't drill a little deeper and start to identify the different features on the moon, you'll get kind of bored. Luna Cognita is probably the most comprehensive for each phase of the moon, what the best things are in view along the terminator, just unbelievable information. I mean, you can just sit down at any point, start going through this. It will get you excited about observing the moon again. My good friend and somebody who's been writing for the magazine since their very first issue, Robert Reeves, recently put out Exploring with the Moon, and a plug for him. He does some of the most phenomenal lunar photography I've ever seen. Truly is world class, great book, and has a lot of good information in there as well. So if you want us to go, hey, go back to basics. What do I do? The moon's out, the sky is clear. Grab one of those resources and move forward with it. Also, when Richard does show up and gives his talk, he'll talk a little bit about this lucky imaging. Well, once you capture that, you know how to do lunar, you know how to do planetary, you know how to do solar. They all utilize a different thing, video files and everything else. So I'm going to leave it to him. But if you want to get involved in any of those, understand that process, which is very different than what I do most of the time, which is deep sky. And you got people like Christopher Go. He focuses on one, so instead of going wide, he goes deep. And he mostly images Jupiter, or sometimes Saturn as well. And you think, I don't know that would hold my interest based on how I'm wired. But I must say, the images he produces are phenomenal. They look like it's an orbiter circling the planet. He does these videos of them rotated through and just phenomenal. You only do that when you really hone in on a specific topic and get really, really good at it. But Richard Wright, I encourage you, you want to get involved in that kind of imaging, come and visit with him. Sometimes it's fun just to do easy stuff. You know, I was literally had gotten I was in a little more of a board, and I'm like, let me do something. I just need to get out. I didn't have anything planned. I said, I'm going to go get the full moon as it goes behind the bat tower at home in Nashville. And it was kind of cool as it got closer. It's like, look, it's sub-10, same amount of sky as the little AT&T disc on there. And so I had fun just playing with it and being creative. Did something creative with a morning that I ordinarily would have slept a little later before going into the office. So think about it. What can you do? Every day there's something you could do that would be a little more creative than what you're doing. And if you're lucky, you'll catch some of these. You know, especially NASA taking the sun down for maintenance. It's hard to catch that one, but this guy did. This was one of the ones that was submitted for our solar gallery on the last one with the partial or the annular eclipse. I mean, wow, what an image. That's cool. But if you're not out there doing it, you're not going to catch it. Just a plug for, we do have a solar section in ours. John O'Neill does a great job with it, with galleries and everything else. You can learn more about how you image solar, and there's some great online resources, NASA Solar Observatory and Space Weather. Some of this stuff may require that you get more equipment. So I brought a little optical test here, and I keep failing it, so of course, yeah. Bring that one home, honey. I got to get some new equipment. Yeah, and there is a online scam going over. You know, some of that stuff. I actually ordered diamond earrings for Margie, and a telescope showed up. So be careful. That one works once. It resulted in my having to buy diamond earrings, however. So yeah. Here's an area that you can get into. If you have any kind of even a small mono camera and any kind of a telescope, you can get into spectroscopy for about $300. And it's absolutely fascinating when you begin to look at just standard stars and what type of star are they? We were talking about where life is formed. Yeah, start to read that. We will post different things in the magazine on variable stars and spectroscopy and photometry. But that gets a little heavier in the science. But guess what? It's fascinating when you understand the things that you look at in a little bit more depth. We also have people who do sketch and do a nice job with it. Gives you an idea what you can do or how you look at things. But again, if you sketch, you will see more than you do before. Do some outreach. If your enthusiasm is ever flagging, get together with a bunch of 8, 9, 10-year-olds and show them stuff in the telescope. If you can come away from that and not be excited, I tell you what, and it's just plain fun. And I had one I talked about a young lady who started with me in 4th grade. The next year she went in 5th grade. I did it with that class, and she helped me with the outreach. 6th grade, she had her own telescope, and she set up that. And now she's a physics major at Caltech. You don't know how you might influence people if you get out there and share our hobby. It's pretty spectacular. Richard Wright, speaking of whom, he took this picture. He does outreach sometimes in front of, I guess, Starbucks. Yeah, he likes coffee, loves their coffee. So, but what was really cool about this wasn't just the young lady, so we put it on the cover. The young lady at the telescope is pretty neat, but look in the background. You have somebody who looked through the telescope is now showing somebody else what they saw in the telescope. So you get the two people pointing up, and it has this effect where it catches on in somebody else, and now they can, hey, that bright, looks like a bright star, that's actually the planet Jupiter. So it's really cool when you do outreach how this whole thing can expand. And I asked Richard, I said, so did you stage that? And he goes, no, I just took the picture, and that's what was happening. So pretty cool. Encourage you to get together with people from your club, go out on your own, but do some outreach. There is some cool stuff out there. Again, new technology. We joke about the C-Star. A friend of mine had a 17-inch CDK, and he posted an image, and the guy says, yeah, that's almost as good as my image from my C-Star. So yeah, they are what they are, but for outreach, they're pretty cool because kids can log in with their phone, and they can save that image, and that's part of that taking part in it. I like usually to have them look through the eyepiece, but I must say, this is a pretty cool way that they can participate in what they see, take it home, tell somebody else. And again, you don't know what impact that's going to have on their life. So cool things. Cam does some cool stuff too. But the kind of the information sharing is pretty cool in that regard. So the other thing is, when you take an image, I took this image, one of the images I took with that new equipment, go a little bit deeper, begin to look into it. So what's in there beside from, so I was just doing a wide field around the bubble. You know, okay, I know there's a lot of stuff there. The lobster claw, I know I was going to include that in there. But there is tons of stuff in this image. And so begin to hunt a little deeper and spend time to identify it. And it's going to get into what John's going to talk about. And I'll talk about that as well. But this was kind of cool because a friend of mine had a 17-inch. And he looked and he goes, you know, you got captured this little planetary in there. I'm like, oh, what? Identified a lot of this stuff. He goes, yeah, there's this thing, Dan Good. And he sent me this whole write-up, and it's absolutely fascinating. So this is a tiny little, literally a tiny little part of that, and you can read about this phenomenal thing, and it had a recent ejection out the side. So, of course, in his 17-inch telescope, he got this, but it's cool. You can actually see that in that wide field I did. So begin to explore even the stuff you have and drill down and find out what's there. But that's really cool. So the A1, A2 axis is about 1,500, you know, it happened about 1,500 years ago, which in astronomical terms is like yesterday. But yeah, cool stuff that amateurs do. Collaborate with other people with different focal lengths. Oops. So I took this. I was like, okay, here's the Pleiades. How many times I shot it? But you know, you usually do it fast. You can capture it pretty quickly. And I will say, I'm a little impatient. Yeah, I keep on the move. So I'm going 6 hours. So I went 6 hours, and it is cool. I got a lot of background stuff I'd never gotten before, and it does remind you that there's no empty space. It's just different densities of space-time continuum, and I was pretty proud of it until this lady sent her 63-hour image to me, and I'm like, okay, well, thanks. That was like, I was ashamed. But Luca was on our last cover. She and a group of Italian women are doing phenomenal work and going really deep. And again, with an ASCAR 60, a small telescope, but phenomenal stuff that they're beginning to discover that's been there right in front of us the whole time. We're just was moving a little too fast. So, and this is my friend. Actually, he'll be our star person next month. Jeffrey Horn put 174 hours into this image, an incredible skyscape. There is so much in here. I mean, and we went back and forth, and I blow it up on big monitors and stuff. But my God, I just would put that on my wall, probably the dining room. Margie would appreciate that. But I mean, there's phenomenal stuff. That at the same thing happened to him. He looked through and he's identifying everything, and if he can't find something, he's like asking, what is this? Well, actually, there's a planetary nebula which was just found in conjunction with a couple of friends. They got more focal length. They recorded these things, and they named it. And his father, who is a friend, longtime subscriber of mine, just passed away, and they named that after his father, or had an opportunity to incorporate that in the name. So really neat stuff. But again, we'll feature Jeff in the next issue. And then my friend John Talbot did a wonderful job with an article talking about his collaboration. I won't go into detail because he will. But people who said, yeah, I've imaged everything, I say, yeah, what about PAJO 637.4? You got that one? Yeah. No, I haven't got that one. So there is tons of stuff out there that is absolutely fascinating. John invested a lot of time, about 58 hours in this, but yeah, he's going to tell you more about that. You want to drill a little deeper, you think you've hit everything that's interesting. We have a guy who does visual astronomy, does the same thing. Dave will put, a month into researching things and goes to the very edge of what you can do visually to discover these different things and see things that literally probably there's never been human beings, or very few human beings have looked at through a visual instrument. So there's all kinds of ways. I was out here with Mike Lockwood. If you haven't seen his night vision, whole different way to go. We actually saw CMUS 147. I actually saw visually CMUS 147. I was taking, 15-minute sub-exposures to even get, and back then I had to I'm still off center, so I'd move it a little bit because it completely filled the chip. But Yeah, that's exciting stuff. So this is what you're actually seeing real time. This stuff. I mean, they're not cheap, but by the same token, you literally would need a 32-inch telescope to see some of this stuff, and you wouldn't see it as vividly. But these things, yeah, they can run about four grand or something, but you can turn a 12-inch into like a 40-inch telescope. Absolutely phenomenal. Astronomical League, if you haven't been on there, and I think there's somebody speaking from the league, it got me started initially doing some of their lists and got involved in kind of just to accomplish the lift. You go through and do these different observing things. They have imaging lists too, and some really cool stuff. I went on there and there's just pages and pages. So if you're lacking direction and kind of where do I go, look through there and hey, start to do one of the lists. Assemble your own lists, and I do them in Excel so you can resort them any which way you do. There's tons of really neat lists online. And then at the end of the day, too, don't forget the other part, the serendipity. These are just some images I took from WSP. You can see, last night it's just amazing. The Southern Cross, you're down here where there's nowhere else in the United States you're going to see these things. From Nashville, there's just no way. I don't care how clear you get on a -9 degree night. You're down here in the tropics. Take some time just to look around and truly appreciate the aesthetics of an amazing place. On the left there is the moon. This was a couple of years ago, moon rising underneath the Milky Way was just absolutely gorgeous, about 4:30 in the morning. The sunsets, the southern objects, yeah, they're just some beautiful, beautiful things. These were all taken here right on this campus. So make sure you take time to appreciate the beauty around you. Make sure you continue to ask beautiful questions. Questions that cause you to delve a little deeper. The answers will actually cycle back and cause you to ask more beautiful questions. And in the meantime, you'll expand your abilities, your capabilities, and have a greater understanding of how you fit into the bigger scheme of things. So, oh yeah, and subscribe. Yeah, keep us going. Hey, I will say, we do, and we fill an interesting niche. I read all kinds of stuff, but we are really a product of people, of you all out there. You're contributing stuff on what you're doing, what you're observing, how you're imaging, the different things that you do. We profile different amateur astronomers. We cover star parties. Hey, what's this star party like? What's it like? But anyway, hopefully you do. Hopefully you join us and continue our legacy. We've been publishing now for 30 years. I took it over, 17 years ago from Tom Clark, the founding editor. And I've had an absolute blast with it. I've met so many people that are just absolutely fascinating. So join us with that and go forth boldly and discover. Yeah, so take captive the chaos and enjoy the cosmos with an attitude of expectant discovery. Have a great time and explore something new tonight. So,
That's awesome.
okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
Oh, thank you,
Something to
sir.
add to your collection?
Well, thank you.